And we have made it. So, welcome everyone. This is See Through. This is my podcast. I am Achita Gopi, in case any of you didn't know. Nice to be with you. I haven't been with all of you in quite some time. There have been so many travels and connections and all kinds of things that happen in the meantime. But I'm so glad to be back and kicking off uh, these regular podcasts again on the last day of Kartik, at least for me. Sometimes for some of us in the rest of the world, it might be the next day, but for me, it's the last day of Kartik, and so I thought, what better way to kick off um, these podcasts once again than with trying to keep the spirit of this month of Kartik all year round. So I'm so glad to be with all of you. So glad to catch up with all of you. I feel like we've got all of our old friends here again. So super excited about that. Thank you so much for being here. You can please leave comments. If you're on Zoom, go ahead and leave your comments over there. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and leave your comments over there. So good to be with all of you. And if you would like to be in the Zoom group, all you have to do is join Patreon. And so that Patreon link I'm putting over on YouTube. You can join Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And the content will be pretty regular once again over there. There was a lot of content happening before I started traveling, and then I did 3 weeks or so in India, and then several weeks to figure out how to reintegrate back into America. And now here we are. But I've been gathering content along the way and gathering fun stories to tell all of you. And I feel like every day opens up something else that I kind of just want to share with all of my friends. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the tribe, whichever portion you are in. I appreciate all of you. So without further ado, we are going to get started. I used to do this once upon a time. I was doing daily lives during Kartik. And during those daily live streaming episodes during Kartik, we would tell stories, we'd talk to one another, have all of these wonderful, loving exchanges with one another virtually. But we'd always started by singing the Damodarastakam. And I haven't done that online for all of you this month. So since we have our last day, I figure might as well do it today. So we'll start with the Damodarastakam. Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Biyolukala Davamanam Parang Rishtamatyanta Drutya Gopya Rudantam Muhurnetra Yugmam Rijantam Karam Boja Yugmena Satankanetram Muhusasakam Patrire Kankakanta Stitagrevam Damodaram Bhaktivadam Iti Driksalilabhir Ananda Kunde Sagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam Tadiyeshitageshu Bhakterjitatam Puna prematastam sata vrittivande Ovaram deva moksham na mokshavadimva न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरे सदपीह इदं तेव पूर्णात् गोपाल बाला सदा मे मनस्याभिरस्तं किमन्ये इदं ते मुखं भोजम् अत्यन्तनीले वृतां कुन्तलै स्निग्धा रक्तश्च गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्ब रक्तधरं मे मनस्य विरस्तमलं लक्षलाभे ओ नमो देव दामोदर अनंत विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःख जलब्धिमग्नं कृपा दृष्टि वृष्टि दिनं वतनु गृहाणैष मामाज्ञाम् एभ्यक्षिदृश्य कुबेरात्मजो बाधा मृत्युव यादा तया मोचितो भक्ति भजकृतो च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं सकमे प्रयच्छ नमोक्षे ग्रहो मेस्ति दामोदरेह ओ नमस्ते स्तु दाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदरायता विश्वस्य दाम्ने ओ नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो राधिकाय त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं जय राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधे जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद नित्य गौर हरिबो 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 गौर हरिबो श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय शिला प्रभुपाद की जय श्री श्री राधा गोविंद देव की जय. And what would our wonderful Damodarastakam be without knowing what we sung? So we also have the translation. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokula, who, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from a swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her, who ran after him with greater speed. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Seeing the whipping stick in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To this Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances. By such childhood pastimes as this, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy, and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, and your lips are reddish like the bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my obeisances unto you, O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me. By showering your glance of mercy upon me, deliver this poor ignorant fool who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows, and become visible to my eyes. O Lord Damodar, just as the 2 sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nalakuvara, were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby tied with rope to a wooden grinding mortar, in the same way, please give to me your own prema bhakti. I only long for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation. O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved, Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. And usually, there is a little diya emoji that I encourage everyone to go and use when listening to this song, or even the translation to this song. So feel free to put your diya emojis. Feel free to join into the celebration. All glories to all of our Vaishnavas who have assembled. So wonderful to be here once again. That prayer is always so incredibly amazing. You think, right? You hear things like, please deliver this poor ignorant fool, and you're thinking, Satyavrat Muni was a great sage. This sage had seen so much. Why? What is this humility that causes great souls to think of themselves as poor ignorant fools, right? The language can seem really harsh by today's standards. It's kind of like, oh, don't be so down on yourself. You're okay. You're not so bad. But it's not necessarily, in my understanding, a humility that thinks of oneself as so bad, so much as misdirected. Have we ever felt just so misdirected? And like we keep taking shelter of all of the wrong things. No matter how many times this material world shows us that it cannot be our ultimate shelter, we keep haplessly, hopelessly taking shelter of this place, thinking we'll fix it, we'll make it better, something else will happen. right? There must be some way to make this place right, when actually there is no making this place right, because the goal is for us to find an eternal home somewhere else. Luckily for us, there is an eternal home. There is a home where we don't have to deal with all of the strifes that we deal with here. We don't have to deal with feeling so disconnected as we feel here. We don't have to worry about feeling all of the mental anguishes that we feel here. In that spiritual abode, the biggest mental anguish is, where is Krishna going? And when will he come back home? When will we get to see Krishna again? During our day, we might wake up in the morning and everyone within Vrindavan flocks to go see Krishna. The only goal there is, when Krishna is leaving, how will I maintain my heart? And when Krishna comes back in the afternoon or in the evening, what preparations will I make for our Krishna just to come back home? These are the only mental anguishes. What is Krishna doing? How is Krishna feeling? Does Krishna have enough to eat? So we can think of our lives in that regard. Every day, we can be wondering, where's Krishna? So many times during Kartik, devotees, bhakti yogis, spiritually minded people on this path of loving devotion will increase their devotion. Usually there's great benediction for increasing our devotional practices during the month of Kartik. But we can do this all throughout the year. We can be more devoted. We can be more fixed. If 30 days of increasing our devotional activities can teach us anything, it is that we can make room for this in our lives on a daily basis. We can make room for more chanting, more reading, more association, more sangha. We can absolutely make time for it. If this pastime that we're about to read together from Krishna book teaches us anything, it is that where there's a will, there's a way. We are depending on Krishna's mercy. But in order to make it, we also need our endeavor. And our endeavor and determination does not mean that we get everything correct. It doesn't mean that we get everything right on the first try. It means that we just keep endeavoring. It means that we keep trying. It means that we don't simply give up. I'm adjusting so that we can actually see Radha Govinda in the background. So it just means that we simply don't give up. Someone asked me, and I'll try and make a reel about this, what do I do to get myself back on track when I feel like I've strayed so far from the spiritual path, from the path of religion? How do I get myself back on track? I said, interestingly enough, Shri Krishna says within Bhagavad Gita with that in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. And just a little advancement on the spiritual path is enough to save one from the most dangerous type of fear. So first of all, in this endeavor, right? It's an endeavor. An endeavor means that we're going to have to work at it. It might not come easily to us. That's okay. That is the purpose. It's okay. It's like physical therapy. If we've been in some sort of harrowing accident, God forbid, and we find ourselves trying to rehabilitate ourselves, that rehabilitation doesn't always come so easily. We have to work at it. We have to put some endeavor into it. We have to put our efforts into it. And so this story of Lord Damodar shows us that our endeavors, our efforts mean everything. And then, when Krishna sees that we are putting in so much wonderful, loving effort and endeavor, he gives us his mercy. And in this endeavor, there is no loss, no diminution. If you feel as though I was on the path. I was doing all the things, and then somehow or other for some time I just wasn't. It's simply as simple as rededicating oneself, as making that decision in the mind to say, okay, I'm going to start up this process again. And wonderfully, in Bhakti Yogi and in Bhakti Yoga, in Krishna consciousness, you don't have to start over from scratch. You never lose the effort that you put in previously. Krishna always remembers. And he always forever keeps that within your spiritual bank account. I often say I'd like my regular bank account to look like that, like where you spend and then the benefit is still there. Like if I could dip into my savings and then the savings is always still there. But that's Krishna consciousness. You're just constantly, you can draw from it and it remains. So even from lifetime to lifetime. So the fact that we are all here together is not a mistake. We have been practicing this Bhakti Yoga, this Krishna consciousness, this re-establishing our relationship with our supreme best friend for lifetimes. And so when you find yourself coming in contact with spiritually minded people and a spiritual path that calls to your soul, you're not starting from scratch, even in this lifetime. You don't have to be a new person or a beginner. All it takes is a willingness from the heart. So how do we get ourselves back on track? We just rededicate. It's just that simple. Making that decision to say, okay, Krishna, I'm going to remember our relationship again. I'm going to get to know you, and I'm going to allow myself to be open and vulnerable enough for you to get to know me again. Because Krishna's already been there. Krishna's always been there. Our friend has always been within our heart. Now, are we going to open ourselves up and be vulnerable enough to allow Krishna to understand who we are? To allow Krishna's love to enter into our hearts, to penetrate that fortress. We have a big old steel door in front of our heart. But deep inside, we're always yearning for that connectedness. We're absolutely always yearning for that connection to our supreme most dear friend. So some of our friends are commenting that we have to let his love wash away the shame that keeps us from going back to him. And that is absolutely true. We have to let go of identifying with the shame. We do not have to be shameful about turning to Krishna. Even if we think, oh, but I should feel ashamed. I only turn to Krishna when times get rough. And then when times are good, I forget about Krishna. Okay. I understand it. We can understand it. But then we have to actually turn toward Krishna again. Let us learn from it. Let us not allow the guilt to just keep us stuck in that place where we say, well, because I only turn to Krishna when things are going badly, and I forget Krishna when things are going good, I'm just never going to turn to Krishna. Don't let the mind win. That is a trick of the mind. The mind that says, who do you think you are? Who are you to turn to Krishna? Who are you to think that Krishna would love you after you've neglected your supreme friend for so long? That's the mind. That is not Krishna. Krishna is always just so eager to rekindle the relationship that we have with him. Krishna's heart is so compassionate that that compassion has its own identity. And that compassion forever and ever lives within the heart of Srimati Radharani. She is the embodiment of all of that compassion. She is that Shakti, that power that comes with such a compassionate, giving, nurturing heart. So Krishna is way too compassionate to hold a grudge against us. He's simply waiting, hoping, wishing. Can you imagine? We wish for things all the time, but what does God wish for? God wishes just to rekindle that relationship with you. You. You specifically. You right now. Not you when you start doing everything right. Krishna is willing and ready and waiting to rekindle that relationship with you right now. So, we'll dive into this pastime, which is coming still from Krishna book. We've been reading Krishna book together for quite some time. Then we took a little break and now we're back. But we're going to be starting on the chapter 9 in my version that says, Mother Yashoda binding Lord Krishna. So if you have it ready, you can read along. You can also just listen. But also it is available on the Vedabase, which is online. And so Srila Prabhupada's books are all available online for free. And so whenever people tell me that they don't have, or they have no way to be able to read these books, I'm like, but they're online for free. We spend our lives scrolling and becoming internet tech savvy. We can find a way to be Krishna conscious. We can find a way to embed Krishna within our lives at all times. So we'll start from Krishna book, chapter 9, Mother Yashoda binding Lord Krishna. Once upon a time, seeing that her maidservant was engaged in different household duties, Mother Yashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. The end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned, and on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breasts, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with 2 hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tinkled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breasts shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and the flower garland which was on her head scattered here and there. Before this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. What I really love about this scene is you get a really good idea of Krishna consciousness in the spiritual world. Everyone is just going about their day. It's not as though they have a specific time set aside where they have to meditate on Krishna. It just simply is in their day, in their lives, in their very being. Mother Yashoda, who's Krishna's mother, is churning butter. And it says to be a whole symphony, an entire kirtan going on while she's churning. Right? You have the sound of the churning rod, and you've got the milk in the pot and it's churning. Right? So you've got this deep sound, almost like drums. You've got the chiming of her bangles as they're going back and forth, which almost sound like kartals. And then she's singing. She's got an entire symphony going, ready-made, just from her devotion to her son. And what does she do while she churns? She sings about her son. They say a lot of these songs were quite spontaneous. They would simply occur based on what her son did yesterday, what her son did that morning, the different names of her son. She's singing about Krishna. All anybody knows in Vrindavan is that we don't know who this boy is. We can't tell the impact that this boy has on our lives. All we know is that we are completely obsessed. Whatever Krishna wants, we want to give him. Down to letting him steal the goods from our homes. And then, of course, they would complain about Krishna stealing all the goods from their homes. But what they would also say is, the day that Krishna does not come to my home to steal yogurt and milk and butter, my cows don't give milk. The cows think, what is the use? We haven't seen Krishna. If Krishna doesn't come today, then what is the use of our giving milk at all? What's the purpose of our lives? So the cows don't give milk. The gopis don't churn the milk into butter. What's the purpose? What's the point? This is how we can think of our lives. Yes, we have to live these dual faceted lives. You have one side which is spiritually minded, and we often have another side which has to be engaged in the world. But we can be that obsessed with Krishna. How can I study as an offering to my Krishna? How can I go to work every day as an offering to my Krishna? And it can be much more simple than we think. You might think, oh, I'm just working in whatever job I have, retail, whatever it is. How can that be worship for Krishna? But somehow or other, we make someone's day better just by being. And in making someone's day better, they will remember that person made my day better. And we are spiritually minded people. And so when you see those people that make your day better, sometimes you start wondering, what do they have? Like, what's up with them? I need to figure out what they've got that is fueling them to make other people's day better. And when they dive deeper, what they'll find is they've got a connection to our Supreme Friend. We as spiritually minded people, just being, making someone else's day better, moving in the world, and being spiritually minded is worship. It is an offering to our dearest friend. So as Mother Yashoda was going about her day, as all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan were going about their day, they were just living their normal lives. And those normal lives were so obsessed with Krishna that they were always Krishna conscious. Sometimes we don't have to try so hard. We just have to do what comes naturally. Loving Krishna will come naturally. It should come naturally because Krishna's love is natural to us. So seeing this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. So what happens when we are performing kirtan, when we are singing with all of our hearts, when we're just engaging all of us, all of what we have, whatever it is we have, when we are engaging that and being obsessed and thinking about Krishna, in performing the kirtan of our lives, what does that bring? It brings Krishna. It attracts Krishna. Krishna comes running from wherever he is, even if he was previously taking a nap, as little 3-year-old Krishna was doing at this moment. So Krishna at this time is about 3, and he had been napping, and now he's awake, feeling his mother's intense love as she is thinking about him, singing about him, working for him, moving, walking, talking, sitting. Anything she's doing is for her son. Being pulled by that intense motherly affection, Krishna appears on the scene. So this is what can happen in our lives. If we develop that love for Krishna, that obsession, that deep yearning, Krishna will happily walk into our lives, being pulled there by our intense affection for him. Krishna felt hungry, and out of love for his mother, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast and then churn butter later. So Krishna is quite an adamant child. He arrives on the scene and he's now tugging on her sari. Give me attention. Talk to me. Look at me. So this is Krishna. Krishna is going to be demanding in our lives. I want to say that our Supreme Person has grown up from this way of being. But really, that little boy is still in there. That little boy who demands all of our attention, even when we were already giving our attention. Your first duty, focus completely on me. Give me everything. So that does, surrender comes with a bit of a warning. And some of my friends, we've spoken about this. Whenever I'm saying, we could just give our hearts and surrender everything. And they're like, yes, I'm ready. I'm like, actually, now that I think about it, it's going to be kind of messy. Krishna, he has a way of making our lives completely messy. So unless we're ready for that, we should think carefully. But this material world already makes our lives messy. We're lying to ourselves if we think that this material life is all neat, confined, and it's only Krishna's mercy that makes it messy. Our lives were already messy. Better that our lives can be messy with Krishna than anything else without him. We find that without Krishna, our lives feel completely lost, completely vacant. Have we ever felt that? The difference of searching before really giving our hearts to Krishna, and then the difference after. Now I know what you're thinking. Like, what do you know, Achyuta? You were born and raised in the Bhakti tradition. What do you know about feeling lost? I know a thing or two. Even as a person who has been born and raised within Bhakti since birth, we can still feel lost. We can still feel like, why should I give my heart? Why should I really throw all of myself into this practice? And I have friends, family, all kinds of people who understand that we've searched. And we've had to search, even within Bhakti Yoga. We've had to search for Krishna. Do I really want to be here? Because Krishna will constantly ask us the question, do you really want to be here? Even if you've been practicing this your whole life, are you feeling it with all your heart? Or is it just lip service? Sachinandan Maharaj, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, always says that our chanting and our devotion has to be heart deep, not just lip deep. Has to go beyond the surface. So, sometimes when we feel like the transformations are too much for us, sometimes when we feel as though, Krishna, if I give my all to you, who will even relate to me? Who will understand me? Will anyone even be there for me? Or am I going to be traveling this path alone? Sometimes we think, better I take shelter of everything else that's going on out there. Better I take shelter of my job, my boss, whatever it is. At least there I can find some kind of connection or relativity. We can find it with Krishna. We have to keep the faith that Krishna is there. Krishna absolutely is a person, a supreme person who knows what we need and what we want, and is working in the best interest of both, not just what we need. Because sometimes there's a connotation, right? We get what we need and we always think that that's going to be painful and icky. It's going to be like medicine at all times. But no, sometimes what we need also aligns with what we want. So Krishna is not just trying to give us our medicine at all times. He's also trying to gladden and enliven and enthuse our hearts. So better to be messy with Krishna than anything at all without Krishna. Because I can tell you, without Krishna, it feels vacant and lost. We are and would be struggling in a broken place, uselessly spinning our wheels trying to fix it. And I guarantee you we would be so frustrated by it. Because fixing the entirety of this place is impossible. There is a different cause to fight for within the world every hour. Not even every day. Every hour there would be a different cause to fight for. It would be draining, hopeless. But with Krishna, we find the hope and the strength to keep going. We find within Krishna the ability to keep trying. We find a way to keep rising the next day. So now that we are all here together, and now that we have found our relationship with Krishna, let us dive into it with everything we've got, so that Krishna becomes moved to run toward us. So Krishna appeared on the scene and he decided, you should be giving everything to me, mother. Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap and pushed the nipples of her breasts into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk, she was smiling, enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Now one might think that's a lot of detail, right? That's really a lot of detail. Why? Do we need such detail? Do we need so much detail? Like, these things are supposed to be sacred, right? Like, should we even think about it like that detailistically? And in thinking about it, first, it's unprecedented how much detail you get with Krishna. Do you ever get this much detail of God? No. Krishna is letting us all into the most intimate details. That's special. It's incredible. It's like, you don't just let anybody see you in your pajamas, right? Like, you've got to really, most of the time, those pajamas or the outfit that you wear when you are having, like, when you go through the breakup moments, or you're sitting on your couch with a tub of ice cream or whatever your choices, right? Whether it's like gelato, whatever it is, like when you're sitting there with all in your comfort food, and you're in that moment where you just need the most comfort and you are your most cozy, you don't just let anybody see you like that. Likewise, when Krishna is at his most comfortable, he doesn't just give that to everybody. But here, we get Krishna at his most comfortable, with intimate details, incredibly intimate details that you don't really get in so many other traditions. There are so many spiritual traditions, and the details here are just incredible. Also, I've heard that love is in the details. And so, with as many details as we have, we should know that there was someone who lovingly spoke all of these details, recorded all of these details, then translated all of these details just for it to get to us right here, right now. This is the labor of love. So, amazingly, we have incredible details. And this is just a summary. Krishna book is just a summary of all of the details that we have about Krishna. Krishna is being open and vulnerable with us on every single page of this Krishna book. Are we being as open and vulnerable with Krishna? So she was smiling, enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Now, can we imagine? We've all seen really cute babies, right? Hopefully. We've all seen really cute babies. Now imagine that cuteness is only a fraction, one minuscule fraction of how amazing Krishna is, how incredibly enchanting Krishna's beauty is as a child. They would describe that sometimes when Krishna was just learning to speak, he would charmingly babble. Can we think about that? God charmingly babbling to the residents of Vrindavan, learning how to speak word by word. Now, any of us who have felt any kind of parental heart opening or blooming for a child, even one that's not our own. Sometimes we've looked at a child or even a pet, a friend, and we felt incredibly protective. We've felt like I didn't know my heart could expand so much that I just want to do anything for this person. I want to be everything for this person. And I'm willing to make it my life's mission. That is just a fraction of what Mother Yashoda feels for Krishna. And as expansive as the heart can feel, it can grow exponentially when we tap into making Krishna the goal and the object of our lives. We think, I didn't know my heart could expand that much. And when we give our hearts to Krishna, it expands even more. And still doesn't forget all of the other people that we care about. Sometimes we think that when we give our hearts to Krishna, we somehow forget everyone else that we ever cared about. They're in the wind, sorry. I've renounced you. I am detached. I am now a pure spirit, soul, living entity. That is it. But the wonderful thing about this love is loving Krishna doesn't mean we forget about everybody else we love. Loving Krishna does not mean that you have to choose Krishna over a spouse or a parent or a family member. Krishna's love is like, the more the merrier. Bring everyone with you. Bring everyone into that loving experience. It will only enrich everyone's lives for the better. So suddenly, the milk, which was on the oven, began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the oven. Now, I have to include more of this. Right? So those of you who were with me in India heard this story, but those of you who are not now get to hear it. This milk boiling over on the stove. This milk is an interesting kind of milk. Mother Yashoda had thought to herself that she wanted to make Krishna special milk sweets. And so she went to Krishna's favorite cow, Padmaganda cow. These are cows that are so beautiful that they have a fragrance of a lotus. And their milk is scented with this lotus fragrance, Padmaganda. So she goes and she milks this cow. And then she has the milk. So it's taken so much, right? She hand-fed the cow because this is how intent and specific she was on making these sweets for Krishna. And she didn't want anybody else to do it, just her. Hand-fed the cow the grass, making sure that the grass was the finest, softest, most wonderful grass ever. Now Nanda Maharaj had some 900,000 cows. These cows were special. Out of 900,000. So she went, fed the cow the grass, waited, milked the cow, right? Personally milking the cow. And then she put the milk in a pot, put the pot on her stove, and then she's letting the milk heat, because as the milk heats and then it condenses, and then she can mix it, and then she can put in sugar, and then she can make all of these wonderful sweets for Krishna, just for her little boy. Now this milk begins to boil over. Anyone who has ever cooked milk knows that it is a very tricky situation. Because 1 minute it's not boiling, and then the next it's done boiling over. Milk is quite finicky. And it even has a special sound, right? There's a little hiss that comes before. For about 4 years, I was cooking for my beloved deities, Radha Govinda, behind me. I was cooking for them. And my sister and I, we would often make paneer from scratch, so with milk. And we would often get really attuned to that hiss, This milk gives this hiss, and you know you have to turn around and cut it off immediately. One other hack is you can put a wooden spoon across the top of the pot, and somehow that stops the milk from boiling over so much. But it will, but you've got to catch it. So anyone who has ever boiled milk knows that you've got to catch it at the good moment. Otherwise, one, it won't be hot enough, or it will just completely boil over. And so Mother Yashoda did not want this milk to boil over because everything would be ruined. Because then the taste of the milk would have this kind of burnt taste. And then the sweets that were made from that milk would still have that burnt taste. And she didn't want that burnt flavor in her milk sweets that she went through so much endeavor to try and make for Krishna. So she puts Krishna down. Now, our spiritual teachers and our acharyas say, they tell us that everything within Vrindavan is spiritual, sentient, conscious. Why am I telling you this? So the milk is conscious. The milk thinks. Yes, the milk can think. According to our previous acharyas, the milk is thinking to itself, Krishna is busy drinking Mother Yashoda's milk. What use will he have for me? Krishna's appetite is unlimited. But because Krishna's appetite is unlimited, Mother Yashoda's love conversely is also unlimited. She will never stop having a supply of milk for him. And so he'll keep drinking and drinking and drinking, and then he'll be full and he'll have no use for me. And if Krishna has no use for me, better that I just give up my life. Better that I enter into fire than to forfeit my purpose in serving Krishna. And so the milk begins to boil over, effectively jumping into fire, this dramatic milk. So the milk is thinking this. Mother Yashoda puts down Krishna to now go tend to this milk. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his lips and eyes became red in rage. He pressed his teeth and his lips, and taking up a piece of a stone, he immediately broke a butter pot. First of all, how adorable is this little boy? Okay, he's 3, chubby, soft as butter, little dimples in his hands and his elbows and his knees, right? You ever see little 3-year-old children and they're really chubby and they're so adorable? So firstly, he's so adorable, still drinking his mother's milk. Who are you angry with? And how can I take you seriously? He's so angry. Lips quivering with rage, eyes red with rage. Our previous acharyas say that this little 3-year-old Krishna even kind of like growled in anger. Who are you this angry with? I have a hard time being able to take him seriously because he's such a sweet little baby. He's also sometimes a terror to the people around him, but he's such a sweet little baby. So now he's so angry. And they say that this Krishna, little baby, is also the source of Lord Nrsimha, who had all of the planetary systems quivering in fear. But now he's still a baby. So he stomps his feet, crosses his arms, huffs in anger, because if anybody's going to throw a tantrum, he's going to do it supremely. And then he picks up a small stone and hurls it at a pot, thinking, if my mother won't feed me, then I have to take matters into my own hands. I have to scavenge for myself. I have to scrounge up something for myself because now I've been left on my own. I've been abandoned. He really does think that he's been abandoned. He begins to complain to the forest animals around. I was simply trying to eat. My mother put me down and she abandoned me. I could have starved, And I was thinking, you just ate. How were you gonna starve? But this is our Krishna, demanding all of our full attention, adorably. And so he breaks the pot. I wasn't even finished. Now I'm still hungry. So he breaks the pot. Butter comes spilling out. Butter and yogurt and everything mixed, and it comes spilling out onto Krishna's hands, and he greedily licks them. Now there's butter everywhere though. There's butter in his hair, beautiful curling locks of hair. There's butter on his face, there's butter on his torso. It's often very hot in India, and so they don't even have the children wear that many clothes. There's butter everywhere. There's butter on his legs, butter on his feet, butter on the floor. So he immediately broke the butter pot. He took butter out of it, and with false tears in his eyes, he began to eat the butter in a secluded place. So they're saying, like false tears, what does that mean? Was Krishna falsely crying, thinking, oh, I'm the supreme person, and how could I be treated this way? No. False in the respect that he wasn't really going to starve. But those tears were true. He was that angry, that upset. When Krishna is displaying these unlimited pastimes, as we read in the Damodarastakam, when Krishna is displaying these pastimes, he is not thinking, I'm God. Let me go and display a pastime. He's so fully steeped in this pastime. There is no outside of it. There is no difference. There is no other identity other than the relationship that he is currently having with those devotees. So, Krishna shedding these false tears. In the meantime, Mother Yashoda returned to the churning place after setting the overflowing milk pan in order. She saw the broken pot in which the churning yogurt was kept. Since she could not find her boy, she concluded that the broken pot was his work. She began to smile as she thought, this child is very clever. After breaking the pot, he has left this place, fearing punishment. So, how does she also see? First, she's a little bit taken aback. Where is my son? And then she sees this broken pot and all the yogurt and butter, and anybody could have broken it. An animal, what have, anything. Where's my child? But our acharyas say that she saw little butter footprints leading away from the scene of the crime. And so she knew that it wasn't an animal that had attacked her child. It wasn't some crazy demon. It was Krishna fleeing from the scene of said crime. After she sought all over, she found a big wooden grinding mortar, which was kept upside down, and she found her son sitting on it. He was taking butter, which was hanging from the ceiling on a swing, and he was feeding it to the monkeys. Now, anyone who has hand-churned butter knows that it takes a long time. It takes a long time to churn a big pot of milk and yogurt into butter. And it takes the right conditions and all of these things. It's like science and chemistry all rolled into one. And now this boy is taking all of her hard-earned work and feeding it to the monkeys, the undisputed rascals of Vrindavan. All of you who have been with me to Vrindavan, now we know they're cute, but don't feed them and attract them to your home. They'll be everywhere, causing a disturbance. Not to mention the fact that at any moment, any one of them could have attacked her boy. But he's 3, and now getting too close with the furry wild animals. Why? Krishna thinks, in a previous birth, I was Lord Ram, and all of the monkey soldiers, unlimited monkey soldiers, helped me to find Sita. But as a king then, I had no kingdom. I had no wealth to present them with, to somehow thank them for that mammoth task. But now, I'm the son of a king. And so, in charity, I will give the wealth of my family to these descendants of those monkey Vanaras who helped me to rescue Sita. The wealth of my family is milk, yogurt, and butter. So let me give in charity to all of these monkeys. So Krishna is now feeding the monkeys, thinking himself to be quite a charitable prince of Vrindavan. His mother is not so happy about this. She saw Krishna looking this way and that way, in fear of her because he was conscious of his naughty behavior. Yes, he knew he was doing a bad thing. After seeing her son so engaged, she very silently approached him from behind. Krishna, however, quickly saw her coming at him with a stick in her hand, and immediately he got down from the wooden grinding mortar and began to flee in fear. Now some of our acharyas say, not only did Krishna see, but the monkeys began to alert him. Oh, Krishna, Krishna, your mother is coming. They started chattering. Anybody has heard like monkeys chattering when something startles them. It's quite a interesting sound, but they started chattering. Krishna looks and he sees his mother. Oh no! And he takes off running. Now, I've said before, anybody knows that one of the most difficult things to catch in the universe is a toddler. They don't run straight. As soon as you think they're going to go one way, they don't go that way. And then as an adult, you're like trying to think with your adult mind how to catch a toddler. And then the toddler is just going, and somehow or other, all of your adult plans are foiled by a 3-year-old. Now imagine, not only is this a toddler, which is already the most difficult thing to catch in the universe, but this is a toddler covered with slippery butter. Hats off and kudos to Mother Yashoda for this mammoth task of raising God as a little boy, mischievous and restless as the wind. Mother Yashoda chased him to all corners, trying to capture the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never approached even by the meditations of great yogis. So Krishna cannot even be caught by the meditation of great yogis. Here Mother Yashoda is trying to catch he who cannot be caught by anyone. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is never caught by the yogis and speculators, was playing just like a little child for a great devotee like Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, however, could not easily catch the fast-running child because of her thin waist and heavy body. Still, she tried to follow him as fast as possible. Her hair loosened and the flowers in her hair fell to the ground. Now, remember, we said that everything in Vrindavan is sentient, yes? So those flowers falling from her hair were of two minds. Half of the flowers were thinking, oh no, Mother Yashoda is trying to catch Krishna. And I don't want to be part of a conspiracy to catch my Lord. Let me disassociate myself with this conspiracy woman. And they jump from her hair. Some of the other flowers are thinking, Mother Yashoda is trying to catch Krishna. We are on her side. Let us not weigh her down with our weight. And they fall from her hair. And so in this way, the flowers were of two minds, and they were falling from the hair of Mother Yashoda. One thing that I love is that she is the queen of Vrindavan. But every day, she was still beautifully decorated. Flowers in her hair, jewelry, all of everything. Everything. So I say, never stop dressing up for Krishna. So still, she tried to catch him. Although she was tired, she somehow reached her naughty child and captured him. When he was caught, Krishna was almost at the point of crying. He smeared his hands over his eyes, which were anointed with black eye cosmetics, which is really, really adorable. If you've ever seen a little baby in India, sometimes they do it right, sometimes it gets a little wonky. But sometimes when they do it right, they have black eyeliner on the children. And so it looks really adorable. And now think, this is Krishna. Eyes like lotus petals, wide, beautiful eyes. And they're lined with this black eye cosmetic. And now he's rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. Chubby lotus hands. Soft, soft hands, which don't feel like they could bear even the brunt of hard sand. Sweet, tiny little lotus hands, tinged red. And now Krishna is sad and crying and rubbing his eyes, and the mascara is going everywhere. He's streaked all over the place with this dark cosmetic now blending into his skin color, but still not quite, and everything's all messed up, and his hair's disheveled. Right? He's got a peacock feather on this side. He's got his everything is going every which way. His body is slippery and oily, and it's got butter everywhere. There's butter handprints on her walls and butter footprints on her floor. This is our Krishna. This is our most worshipful Lord. The child saw his mother's face while she stood over him, and his eyes became restless from fear. He who strikes fear into the entire universe. Everybody's a rock star. Everybody is an activist. Everybody is tough until their mom comes along. Mother Yashoda could understand that Krishna was unnecessarily afraid, and for his benefit she wanted to allay his fears. Being the topmost well-wisher of her child, Mother Yashoda began to think, if my child is too fearful of me, I don't know what will happen to him. Mother Yashoda then threw away her stick. In order to punish him, she sought to bind his hands with some ropes. She did not know it, but it was actually impossible for her to bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So she's thinking, I just need to finish my household work, but I can't do it if I'm constantly in fear that something bad will happen to Krishna, or that he'll get into more mischief and then something bad will happen to him. Better that I tie him up a little bit. Now I know some of us with our modern minds are thinking, okay, first she chased God with a stick, and so much as to say, like the translation, whipping stick, right? So now we're like, oh my goodness, all the corporal punishment and the tying up and all of these things. This was God. It could happen to God. Even God gets in trouble. Because let's be honest, he was really naughty. That was actually a really, really naughty thing to do. Really? That was bad, okay? It's just plain bad. Like, why are you like this? And oftentimes, Mother Yashoda would chastise Krishna. Why are you so restless? Why are you like this? Even during this particular pastime, our acharyas say she's constantly chastising him. Oh, Krishna, why are you so restless? And then you're feeding things to the monkey. Oh, Vanara Priya, she calls him. Dear to the monkeys. You're acting just like a monkey. Why are you like this? Krishna gets offended. How dare you? You keep calling me a Vanara. You keep telling me I'm acting like a monkey. I'll go to the forest and live with the monkeys. So Mother Yashoda also thinks, better that I tie him up, because this boy is so restless. Who knows what goes on in his mind? He just might do it. He's threatening now to leave home and go live in the forest. He just might do it. Better that I tie him up. So, spoiler alert, she begins to try and tie him to the wooden grinding mortar. Why? 1, because it's heavy. And 2, because he was previously sitting on it. And so Mother Yashoda considered that the wooden grinding mortar was an accomplice to all of Krishna's crimes. You're an accomplice. You two can be in this mess together. So she ties Krishna to the wooden grinding mortar. Here, now you sit there and think about what you've done. So she did not know it, but it was actually impossible for her to bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mother Yashoda was thinking that Krishna was her tiny child. She did not know that the child had no limitation. There is no inside or outside of him, nor beginning nor end. He is unlimited and all-pervading. Indeed, he is himself the whole cosmic manifestation. This is poetry. Still, Mother Yashoda was thinking of Krishna as her child. Although he is beyond the reach of all senses, she endeavored to bind him up to a wooden grinding mortar. But when she tried to bind him, she found that the rope she was using was too short by 2 inches or 2 fingers. She gathered more ropes from the house and added to it, but at the end she found the same shortage. In this way, she connected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that it was still 2 inches too short. Mother Yashoda was smiling, but she was astonished. How was this happening? In attempting to bind her son, she became tired. She was perspiring, and the garland on her head fell down. Then, Lord Krishna appreciated the hard labor of his mother, and being compassionate upon her, he agreed to be bound up by the ropes. This is what I mean. Our endeavor. And yes, sometimes it feels like the endeavor is hard, but that just endears us to Krishna even more. When Krishna sees that we're putting in so much effort just to love him, just to worship him, just to be mindful and conscious of our eternal relationship with him, Krishna loses his heart to us. Okay. Krishna's heart is melted. He thinks, okay, let me allow myself to be caught by them, even if for a moment. Let me encourage them. Let me give some solace to my dear one. So this is what we are all in for. Yes, sometimes the road is not going to be easy, but Krishna makes up for all the endeavor with unlimited festivals of sweetness in our lives. Krishna will always care for us. So he agreed to be bound up by the ropes. Krishna, playing as a human child in the house of Mother Yashoda, was performing his own selected pastimes. Of course, no one can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pure devotee surrenders himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee. But for his part, the devotee never forgets his own position of surrender. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotee. What do we get by all of this surrender? The more we surrender to Krishna, the more Krishna then surrenders his heart to us. Krishna is just yearning to surrender himself to us. How inconceivable. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender unto his mother Yashoda. Krishna is the supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees. But the benediction which was bestowed upon Mother Yashoda was never experienced even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or the goddess of fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, is never so completely known to the yogis and speculators. But he is easily available to his devotees. My friends, if you remember nothing else about this lecture, let it be this. Krishna might not be available to everyone, but he is always easily available to his devotees. Krishna desires to be available to us. Nor is he appreciated as the supreme reservoir of all pleasure by the yogis and speculators. After binding her son, Mother Yashoda engaged herself in household affairs. At that time, bound up to the wooden mortar, Krishna could see a pair of trees before him, which were known as Arjun trees. The great reservoir of pleasure, Lord Krishna, thus thought to himself, Mother Yashoda, first of all, left without feeding me sufficient milk, and therefore I broke the pot of yogurt and distributed the stock of butter in charity to the monkeys. See, charity. Now she's bound me up to a wooden mortar. So I shall do something even more mischievous than before. And thus he thought of pulling down the 2 very tall Arjuna trees. There's a history behind the pair of Arjuna trees. In their previous lives, the trees were born as the human sons of Kuvera, and their names were Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Fortunately, they came within the vision of the Lord. In their previous lives, they were cursed by the great sage Narada in order to receive the highest benediction of seeing Lord Krishna. Now, isn't that something? In a previous life, they were cursed, but cursed with a benediction? They were cursed with the benediction of seeing Lord Krishna. This benediction curse was bestowed upon them because of their forgetfulness due to intoxication. This story will be narrated in the next chapter. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 9th chapter of Krishna, Mother Yashoda, binding Lord Krishna. Now you'll just have to come back next Monday so that we can talk about what their benediction curse was and talk about what that benediction curse means for all of us. But for now, we can reflect on the unlimited sweetness that is there within this pastime. The love of Mother Yashoda for her son, not thinking of him as anything other than her son, when really the Supreme Person is playing in her courtyard. The Supreme Person is throwing tantrums in her house. The Supreme Person is stealing yogurt and butter and feeding it to monkeys in her home, but the Supreme Person is also wrapping his tender little arms around her neck. The Supreme Person is crying for her attention. The Supreme Person is burying his face in her neck when there is thunder outside. Mother Yashoda begins to reflect on all of this throughout this pastime. Sometimes she sees within Krishna some wonderful things. We read about how she would look within his mouth and see the entire universe. But then she would think, who is this child? Maybe this is some important personality that has been born in my home. And then she would remember, that can't be. This is still the same boy who runs to me when he cannot sleep. Still the same boy who clutches onto me when there is loud thunder and lightning outside. Out of fear, he calls out to me. This is the same boy who has grabbed hold of my finger when he is learning to walk. How can he be anything other than just my child? So on this last day of Kartik, I pray that we develop so much love, affection, obsession for Krishna, that it pulls him crawling into our lives in the way that we hold most dear. I pray that we soon get the vision of Krishna that we hold most dear, whether that's as a child or whether that's as a full-blown youth, handsome, charming, sarcastic, wonderful, loving, protecting Krishna. I pray that we get that vision very, very soon. Thank you for being with me. I'm looking forward to being with all of you again next Monday. We'll keep it Monday around this time. Why not? Loads of fun. I'm so excited to be back with these podcasts. It enlivens me. It is basically the best time of my day. So great to be back with all of you, doing what I love to do most, which is telling stories and researching them in the off time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Yashoda Damodar ki jai, Shri Radha Damodar ki jai. All of these Vrindavan pastimes ki jai. All glories to all of our acharyas and spiritual teachers who have given us all of this knowledge. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Krishna book ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to all of you. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Just fancy way of saying all glories to all of you guys. I'll see you all soon. Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai. Until next time, Hare Krishna.